Welcome to the Racket House podcast, episode 13. This is where we discuss all things music and success in our fun corner of the world, helping to inspire, inform, educate, motivate, and keep hope alive for musicians, creatives, entrepreneurs, and anyone else who wants to grow their brand in the music or creative spaces. Today, I'm honored to welcome Oskar Eichler to the Racket House podcast, a dynamic force in the music tech industry. As the CEO and founder of SongStats, Oskar has revolutionized how artists and labels access real-time music analytics, providing invaluable insights across platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and TikTok. Beyond SongStats, he's played a pivotal role in 1001 Tracklist, the world's leading DJ tracklist database. Some call it the Wikipedia of dance music, enhancing the way we discover and share music. He's not just a tech innovator. Oskar's also one half of the DJ duo Don't Blink, who also run the label Low Ceiling. So he's bringing firsthand artist experience to his ventures. With a background from the Technical University of Munich, Oskar seamlessly blends technical expertise with a deep passion for music. Let's dive into the mind of this music tech architect and explore his journey in shaping the future of music analytics. I'm really excited for this one. Please welcome Oskar to the podcast. Woo-woo! Every episode, I joke that I'm like going to get a soundboard, and I actually locally here in Denver had a chance to do it in person at a studio that had a soundboard, and it was like, oh my god, it felt so good to press those buttons. So thank you, Oskar. Yeah. Thank you, Oskar, for being here. By the way, from the other side of the world, from Bali, Indonesia, which you call home.
Yes, that's right. And that's actually our second take because the internet wasn't so great across the globe. But here we go.
I wasn't gonna tell people that. They know. Okay, yeah.
Now they know. It's all good.
Yeah, it's like a pre-recorded DJ set, but different.
It's the struggle of living in paradise, you know. Like, sometimes the internet is.
It's a beautiful place. I've had the pleasure of going and highly recommend to anyone who likes to travel. It's a great place.
There's actually a lot of like big DJs and entrepreneurs and music people moving out here now. Actually, the guys from Trackstack, Cameron, he's moving here soon. I know that Jamie Jones is building a villa here, you know. So
no way.
Quite.
I was just chatting with somebody about Jamie Jones. The last time I saw him was in Chinatown in LA, Jingling Way, which is a really cool. I don't know if you've heard of it, or seen it. It's got it's literally the heart of Chinatown in LA, and it's got all the designs of China, but there's and they have built a stage there, and they throw parties, and they sell all the confetti poppers and stuff, and it's a really fun time. That was one of the last things I did in LA before I moved out to Denver here. So, thank you for being with us. I was really excited when Oskar reached out to me, having seen one of the other podcast episodes I did with our friend Kaysen, DJ A&R at Repopulate Mars. And what I love about Oskar's story is there's a lot of similarities on a personal level. He works in the tech world. I came from the tech world. He got into music at a young age, as did I. As somebody who has been DJing for quite some time and loves the kind of music you make, I have your music in my collection. Don't Blink, the group, make banger tech house, and then their record label Low Ceiling. I have some friends who've released on your label. I've played music that you've released, and maybe someday soon I'll put something out with you too. So really exciting to talk. But today we've agreed to discuss the ventures that you're a part of with SongStats and 1001 Tracklist, and I think it's a really exciting opportunity for artists at any level, independent artists primarily, who I work with and who listen to these things, to get kind of an inside look at the industry and technical components of it, data driven metrics, algorithms, that buzzword that we love so much. So I'm really excited to talk about that. I think because my audience isn't only electronic music, I think it's fair to talk about SongStats first, a platform that I use that I think almost every artist that I know uses. How did you where did that even come from? How did that start? What is your role within it? Talk to us a little bit about that. Just a tiny bit, not too much.
Sure. So Songstats actually was meant to be the, I would say, for artists professional dashboard for 1001 track lists. 1001 track list is basically like a music database for DJ mixes. It's
Hmm.
entirely like community curated. So there's no like audio fingerprinting or something like this going on. That's why you mentioned this at the intro. It's sort of referred to as the Wikipedia of dance music because it's all the community contributing to essentially create a whole track list of a set, which could mean that, let's say, David Guetta is performing at Tomorrowland, and then you know exactly you were there, or maybe you weren't there, but you can see exactly on the side all the music that was played. And that is very interesting information because, let's say, you're an artist, you can actually find out which other DJs are playing your music. And also for record labels, that's super interesting because they can ultimately find out, like, hey, our music that we've been promoting really hard and that we've been put a lot of effort into, like pushing it out there, it actually resonates very well with, let's say, Tiesto, or let's say Adam Beyer, or let's say Jamie Jones, right? So ultimately, this data can be quite valuable. So what we were seeking out to do is, and what Songstats was called before, was a platform called 1001 Track Stats. So it was like sort of like the combination of 1001 track lists, and but not so many people know about this because it only had like 200 users.
Yeah.
But it was essentially 1001 track list for artists, and
Mm.
we showed you every time that your music got supported. You know, if a DJ plays it, we give you a notification about it, and well, it turns out that not so many data points are coming in there every week. You know, if you even if you're a bigger artist, you might get, you know, a handful of supports each day, but it doesn't really is enough to really like get people to really be hooked and like look at the platform every day. You know,
You're talking about in its infancy, it was only sourcing from 1001 tracklist. Is that what you're saying?
correct. At
So
the
you
very
were
beginning, it was supposed to
Mhm.
be just a professional dashboard for 1001 track lists.
Understood. Okay. So because the UI, I mean, I'll be honest, the UI for 1001 tracklist does look like it's from 1995. Um, but and I have so
Retro.
many. Yeah. Well, okay. So these are two platforms that are integrated, obviously. Okay. So it started out as, so it sounds like we built this thing. It was a professional dashboard that was sleek and sexy and a little bit easier to use, or looked better. And then you guys realized that it needed more data as an input.
Yeah, exactly. So the 1001 Tracklist website was founded by a German database developer called Jan. He's actually like
Good
he
name.
was like a cashier like system database developer, like you know, for like supermarket database systems. But he's a big like electronic music fan, so he
Mm,
eventually got fed up that like there was no good platform to kind of see all the music that was played during a DJ set. There was some forums out there, but whoever used forums back in whatever 2005 or something, you know, you had to like
yeah.
scroll back so far to like maybe had one user at some point comment like, actually this was this track at like minute 15 in the set or something, you know, but you had to go through like multiple pages, and he was like, well, I'm a database engineer, you know, I can make this a database, you know, where people can contribute. And that's how that all started. But the technology now is a little bit old when it comes down to like the frameworks that 1001 Tracklist is using. That's why you mentioned it looks a bit retro, and it is a bit retro, you know. We hope that maybe eventually we can give it a little bit of a facelift, but we at this point it actually has a little bit of charm. We feel
Yeah.
like that it's sort of like part of the identity now of 1001 Tracklist, and it's a bit
People are
old school
used
and
to it.
nerdy, you know.
It's kind of the brand of it, right? Like it yeah, and I
The
mean,
nerds.
honestly, yeah, it's really interesting too because it was built as it, and it still is user generated content, but you guys have rules within that. Because I was trying to get some of my own music added, and I forget I forget why or what the parameters were that were not allowing me. You have to go
Yeah,
through
so
like a
we have a
yeah,
3 by 3 rule. So
yeah.
basically, what that means is we essentially, in order to get your track list onto 1001 track list, you need to be a producer yourself. You need to be an
Mm,
artist yourself. We don't want every single set from any bedroom DJ to go up there because it
hmm.
sort of just like floods the site, and it
Yeah,
sort of dilutes everything, like all the data. So instead, we essentially want you to have an audience yourself, so it's
sure.
relevant, you know. So we have this like 3 by 3 rule, which basically means you need to have at least 3 tracks that were supported by 3 DJs, other
Mm-hmm.
DJs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then once you reach that rule, I think we also now allow actually having 1 track with 9 or more supports, so it's sort of like you just need not 9 supports total, from other DJs. And at that point, I think you'll be eligible to upload track lists to the site.
Wow.
And
There. Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you, but I haven't actually looked at my own profile on here in a minute.
yeah.
There's a lot of my own mixes on here, which is really cool.
There you go.
Um,
I
m-
mean, often it doesn't even need to be yourself uploading those. Our
right.
community is very strong. They find, especially if these are popular mixes, they find it and then they upload the track list, and it's very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also wonder, like, who are the people like taking the time to do this, and like, are they incentivized, or is there like any kind of like super user program that you guys have where you're like rewarding people for the uploads and all that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so most of our users, they just do it because they love it. They are
Mm-hmm.
often big fans of certain artists and they know all of their tracks and then they upload their track lists. We have a couple of super users who have like more access on the site and we know them really well. And we invite them to events, in Amsterdam and in Miami. And
Mm.
some of them we're really close friends with now. So it's a great community. And then often now it also happens that the artists just upload their own track list to the site. If you do your radio shows, often you just upload the track list yourself because it also gives you visibility. And then
Yeah.
also now through Songstats, actually, all like the artists whose music you played in your set are actually getting notified, right? So
Yeah.
if you were to play our new track in your upcoming DJ mix, then I
Mm-hmm.
would receive a push notification about it, and it would be like, hey, your music just got supported, and then I can
Yeah.
share it, and it creates this connection, right? So it's really great. And essentially, when we started Songstats, we wanted to um, create like a newer framework or use a newer framework for it because we wanted it to be mobile friendly. We have a mobile app for it. So it basically became its own standalone dashboard. And
Mm-hmm.
we quickly figured out that just the 1001 tracklist data might not be enough for people to really engage with it repeatedly. So we started integrating Spotify and Beatport and SoundCloud. Those were like the first like 4 sources, including 1001 tracklists. And at some point, it became very clear that actually all these tools that we're building are not just interesting in electronic music, but they can be applied everywhere.
There it
So
is.
this
Yeah.
is when we sort of rebranded. We did a lot of uh, we did a dark UI and relaunched basically, and it was exactly 5 years ago, actually in April of 2020 when we launched Songstats, and that immediately had a really big impact on the music scene, especially for independent artists, because it's very much an artist first, mobile friendly, little manager in your pocket that gives you all of the data that you're interested in,
Yeah.
and it was built very much from like almost like selfishly, a lot of these things. Me as an artist, I love having them. A lot of the tools that we're building because we think that they can be really helpful. And we love to use them ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's you're allowed to do that, right? Like, what's interesting too is like, I've met a lot of, this is a kind of a fringe thing, but like physical therapists, right? I've gone to physical therapy. I know personally some, and like, you ask them kind of like, I like to know how people got to where they are, and it's like, oh, I had an injury at some point and I found a ton of value in the rehab process and working with a physical therapist, so I wanted to be able to offer that to other people who have the same challenge. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, but you created something that didn't exist before, right? And you found,
Yeah.
and what was any of this like, you're writing like formal business plans and you're doing market research and or is it just like, yeah, we just want this thing that we can use for ourselves? Like what was the deal there?
I think it was a mix of both a little bit. We started, I would say, cross-platform analytics quite early because we've been building it now for like, I think, 8 years or something like this. I mean, there was a lot of development before Songstats launched as Songstats, where we just had to figure out as we went. The thing about it is that back then, I almost felt like there's maybe not even that such a big of a need for cross-platform analytics. Like there was always this argument, well, I could just check Beatport myself, and I could just check Spotify for Artists myself, and I could just check whatever myself. And that's a fair argument, but what actually happened was there was so many more platforms that launched from Tidal to Amazon Music to YouTube Music. Then TikTok came along,
Yeah.
YouTube Shorts started, Instagram Reels started, everything exploded, and suddenly it's not so easy anymore to like check each of the platforms individually to see if there's any supports there, and open every track and see like how many real creations there were. And so actually a platform like Songstats really became more and more valuable as the music space and the music industry and all the DSP landscape sort of like evolved. And generally, there is some competition that we have in this space for sure. Or like there was like one or two companies before us, and they were more focused on like the business intelligence side. They were more like providing this data to bigger companies, or like for market research or A&Ring. And for us, it was way more important to make it artist focused, mobile friendly, helping artists, giving actionable insights. Because for us, I think the mission was always not to just provide a graph retroactively where you can, okay, here's a graph, look how it did. That's
Yeah.
not really that helpful. Like
Right.
instead we want to be actionable so that we can, like, during your release cycle, we can actually like help you promote your track and see
Sure.
what's going on so that you can build momentum and then ultimately be more successful with it, right? So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So you went from just a data hub, and by the way, like back back in my old corporate days, when I'm selling a platform. I'm selling a platform that was meant to be an all-in-one business suite, right? So
Mhm.
businesses theoretically would be able to use this platform to run their sales, to run their marketing, to run their e-commerce, their
Mhm.
customer support, customer success, right? And we talked about the concept of swivel chairing, right? Which means, for those who don't know, like means going from like one screen or one platform or one application to the next one to the next one, and you're trying to pull in all these different data points, and it's time consuming and clunky and all that. And so by having a platform that can aggregate data, it just in general doesn't matter what kind of data we're talking about, it's just such a lifesaver. And so like one shot, one at a glance. So that alone, I think, provided a lot of value. Even in my world, like, I run ad campaigns for artists. And so, if I'm doing a YouTube campaign, TikTok campaign, Meta ads campaign, I don't know if someone out there listening has has a solution or is building something, like, let's talk about it. Maybe that's something for you to work on. We could talk about that offline, but,
Potentially.
yeah, but okay. So so now obviously there's, everyone cares a ton about these metrics. It's now more than ever, right? Some call it vanity metrics, some just call it their data, their streaming,
Mhm.
whatever it is. So, what would you say is like one of the biggest value props of SongStats? Okay, you have the data, and you talk about actionable insights, but like, how are you specifically in your platform specifically helping with the next step?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways, but maybe let me run you through like how I would use the platform. So first
Sure,
up,
let's talk about it.
yeah, so I would have song sets on my phone, right? And then the moment, let's say I release a new song, and it suddenly gets like an editorial feature, let's say on Beatport, right? It gets featured as a banner or like in the high picks or something like this.
And
Ping,
just
I get it.
quick pause. Those who don't know, Beatport is basically one of the largest, or the largest, I'm not sure size wise at this point, but marketplace for electronic artists. So it's basically a marketplace where DJs go to buy music to play in their DJ sets, and the oftentimes the top 10, top 100 are like the most popular songs you'll hear all around the world in DJ sets.
Yeah, it's basically the biggest electronic music store where you can still download music.
Right.
But regardless of if it's Beatport or let's say Spotify, and you have like an editorial pickup in a playlist, you would receive a push notification, right? Straight to the phone. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. So you immediately see like, hey, it's almost like a little bit like an endorphin rush as well in a way, because it's something that you worked really hard on, right? is often like being compared to like saying, social media is obviously like this like dopamine hit all the time, all the time. I think that can be a little bit exploitative, but with song stats, it's really dear to your career, right, and everything that you work really hard for. So actually, receiving those notifications can be very rewarding and can be inspiring, So let's start with this. You receive the push notification. Now you open song stats. You can see exactly how many streams your music is making. You can then share this notification that you just received and share that to Instagram or share it to Facebook with just one click, right? We do all these like really cool sharing artworks, even animated ones where we use like the video that you upload to Spotify. It's called a Spotify canvas. Some people have seen this when you listen to a track on Spotify and it actually has like an animated video. It's like usually a 7-second loop. So we actually pull that as well, and so you can even have like an animated video that you then share to Instagram with the accomplishment. And for example, if that's a milestone, it just can be like, hey, it reached 100,000 streams, or it could be like, hey, it got picked up by this editorial playlist, or it could be that it ended up in number 10 in the charts or something like this, right? So all these things are shareable. Now, when you share them, of course, other people see them. They're part of your success, right? So oftentimes we really encourage, or I would very much encourage artists to then also tag whoever supported them. If it's an editorial support, let's say on Beatport, just tag Beatport. They will see it. Their editorial teams will see it, and they will continue supporting you in the future. If it's, let's say, someone on TikTok with a lot of followers that used your music in one of their videos and did a cool dance, tag them, shout them out so they will use your music again, because it's a two-way street, and you build sort of like a momentum and a support network in a way, right? So now from that, let's look at some other things. There's some really interesting metrics. Let's take, for example, Spotify popularity. This is like often a quite misunderstood metric, but basically it's not really visible on Spotify. But we are actually able to pull this data and then show it to you. And it's essentially an index from 0 to 100. So it's like a percentile, right? And it basically tells you how popular a song or your artist profile is on Spotify within their whole ecosystem. And the higher that value, the more likely your song is getting supported on like especially algorithmic playlists, and those are usually the ones driving the most streams nowadays. So it's sort of a little insight into what the Spotify algorithm kind of thinks of your music right now and how it evaluates it, right? So take a new release. A new release is like a blank canvas, right? Spotify doesn't have any information yet on how this release is doing. Now, that's the reason why also the first week of a release is super important, because your popularity index will fluctuate the most during the first week, because Spotify is trying to gauge like, hey, how popular is this track? Is it immediately shooting up, or is it sort of like slowly trickling in? But you have.
Would you say? So sorry to interrupt. So would you, in that specific piece of it, would you say that it's similar to like, these days Instagram looks at not necessarily just likes or comments, but like shares, right? Like how many people are sharing this post, which determines, is it popular? Should I show it to an audience that doesn't follow this person? Would you kind of put those two things on the same kind of playing field there?
Yeah, so Spotify actually takes that in consideration. So for the popularity index, they take things in consideration, not just the streams. They take like how many people skipped over the track, how many people actively click play on the track. So not just, it's coming next in a playlist, but how many people actively choose to play that song. Then how many shares are there to socials from, for example, the Spotify app? How many external links lead to it and clicks are coming from it? And then also, of course, just generally, how many playlists does it land on? How many people add it to their collection, their liked songs, etc. So all this is taken in consideration, right?
So are they tracking? I'm sure they are, but are they tracking when you click that share button and you maybe text it to a friend? Maybe don't post it on social media, but are they tracking every single touch point in that respect?
Yeah, so first they know that you shared it. Then when you share, there's actually like a tracking parameter within that link. So then when your friend clicks on that link, Spotify actually knows that the share was actually coming from your profile. That's just like for their market research. But then they also will know that there was like an external link coming in, let's say from WhatsApp to Spotify. And it led to this particular track, right? So all of this is being monitored, and they're very smart about it, right? So the more
Yeah.
engagement there generally is on a song, the higher they rank it, right? So, and that can be really helpful, but that's the reason why I would very highly encourage artists to push as hard as they can in the first week. And that could also mean ahead of the
Mm,
release, for example, to run, let's say, like a pre-save campaign. This is maybe a concept not everyone is familiar with, but let me try to explain it a little bit. So,
sure.
what you can do ahead of release is try to already get people to engage with your song by basically authorizing themselves to have it added to their collection once it gets released. So this is usually referred to as a pre-save campaign. So then
Hmm.
on release day, let's say your campaign led to, let's say, 1,000 pre-saves. That what happens then is on release day, immediately 1,000 people will have that song added to their collection of liked songs. And this is immensely helpful, not just because those 1,000 people then hopefully engage with it and listen to it and have it in their collection, but also Spotify can now profile the potential listeners of that song, and therefore then basically put it forth and recommend it to listeners with a similar taste and with a similar like listening profile, right? And that can then again help, especially with algorithmic pickups. So it's interesting because Spotify has all these editorial playlists where
Hmm.
editors and tastemakers are sitting and basically going through the submissions and picking like some of like the best tracks, to place them. But ultimately, you're only in those playlists, let's say, for like a week. Let's say New Music Friday, everyone's always super excited to be on there. But
Sure.
next Friday, your track is out of there. There will be
Yeah.
another track in New Music Friday. So in the long run, actually the algorithmic playlists, the ones that auto generate, the ones that
Yes.
the algorithm is helping with, those are the ones that will generate streams for a very extended period of time. And the most successful playlists right now from Spotify are actually what they call personalized playlists. And the
Hmm.
funny thing is, internally, they don't call them that. They actually call them algotorial. So it's a mix of algorithmic and editorial. So it's sort of like a combination of the two, right? And those are the most successful because it's sort of like helping the algorithm, and also the editors are picking some tracks to be on there. So those are the ones generating the most plays.
Yeah, those are like evergreen, if you will, right? Like,
Hmm.
I got a friend, shout out botanist, the botanist. I don't know if you know who that is, but definitely on like a nice, good trajectory. And I put on a new artist that I just found out about, and I clicked, either I think it was either song radio or artist radio. Put for those who don't know, like you either choose an artist, you choose a song, whatever, and you can just click go to radio on Spotify for those who don't use it or know about it. And you can just get like a playlist of basically similar music. And I've heard his music, his song, one song in particular, but probably a couple now showing up on these algorithmic playlists, which is a pretty big deal, right? Like editorial is awesome, obviously, and to your point, though, sometimes it could be a really quick hit, right, onto the next one. But to be able to show up algorithmically within these, playlists that are like similar, or sounds like it's almost like how Pandora built their business, right?
Yeah.
Like in full disclosure, I still pay for Pandora. But, and I use it. I actually forgot that I had it, but I like it because it's a little bit different. But yeah, it's that kind of randomization based on a song, or randomization based on a style or a genre or mood.
Yeah.
And so how would you kind of, I guess, maybe go back to this. So like, how would you summarize the best way, or maybe you haven't finished speaking on this, but like how do you like ensure that you're going to show up on these algorithmic playlists?
Well, in the long run, it needs to be good music, right?
Of course.
Because
Yep.
in the long run, what will happen, let's say like a month in, it's ultimately decided primarily by the listeners. If they skip over it repeatedly
Yep.
when the algorithm serves it, then eventually it will drop out. But
Okay.
especially in the first week or two, just push it as hard as you can.
That's crucial.
Encourage
Yeah.
shares, share it yourself. You can share your own song to from the Spotify app to Instagram, and then Instagram even has like on the top like a play on Spotify like little link, so
Yep.
so people can actually engage with it. Run a pre-save campaign. Obviously, push as hard as you can, because and then you can use song sets, for example, to track your popularity and how it's going up,
Yeah.
and you will see, for example, if a track, let's say you had a release 2 weeks ago or like a month ago, and you have a release today, and you can see the trajectory is higher. You can already see like, hey, there's more potential here. Let's put some more into it. And I mean, eventually, of course, you will reach the peak, and then it will just cruise, in a way. But the higher that peak is at the beginning, the more likely your chance for you to get heard by more and more
Yeah.
people. And ultimately, music, and especially having a recurring listener, is all about repetition.
Yeah.
It's actually very interesting, because when you only hear a track for one time and then never again, it doesn't really stick. But
Right.
that's the reason why tracks that you keep hearing become so catchy, even though maybe at the beginning you didn't even like them so much. But then suddenly they just like stick in your head. And that's
Yeah.
also the reason why, and the major labels have that all figured out, They
Yeah.
pay a lot for radio plugging, especially at the beginning of releases, to get it repeatedly into your brain. Because then once it's in there, people just keep listening and keep listening,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the that's the challenge with the industry, is the muscle behind those labels. But so, okay, so you're saying something really interesting, because there are some gurus and, experts and longtime veterans out there who say stop with the pre-save stuff, stop with the, promoting your music before it's out. And, once the music's out, then go hard on it. But I feel like there's been this kind of shift. Like, it used to be really popular to try to get people to pre-save your music. Now there's been kind of like a shift, I feel like, in that, like, it's not as important, or don't do it because people are tired of being told. Like, people want to be sold to, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts when you hear stuff like that? What are your thoughts?
It's very interesting. I have two main thoughts on this. Let's start with one. One is in regards to pre-saves. I completely agree that the current pre-save landscape is a little bit difficult, and actually, we are currently working on our own solution for this. Spoiler alert, or like maybe like announcement alert or something like this.
Okay. All right. This should be a worldwide exclusive, everybody.
Worldwide exclusive. We are going to be launching the platform presave.com. So we got the domain, so we got to do it. But it has exactly that struggle that you pointed out. We're trying to take this away. So the main problem right now that we see with pre-saves is, let's say you have a release coming up in 2 weeks. You start pushing this to your fans, and let's say you really do a good job. You send out a newsletter, you promote on Instagram, and you get people to click on it and to authorize their account and to pre-save, right? You put all this effort in, you get, let's say, 500 pre-saves. The release comes out, these 500 people will have it in their collection. Your track is doing well, your release is doing good, perfect. Now comes the next release, and you have to do it all again. You're basically starting from zero again. You need to, again, run some Instagram ads or something to try and push it, to promote it. And this, I feel like, or we feel strongly, is not the way. So instead, with presave.com, our idea is to create basically like a following of pre-savers. So essentially, a label could, for example, push the pre-save links, and then anyone that saves those songs, they can decide to basically subscribe to that label. So any future release of this label will also get saved to their collection, right? The same thing, you could subscribe to an artist and then basically have any of their upcoming releases saved to your collection. So it makes it easy for you, because then as a fan, you can just look in your collection each Friday and you will see like 20 new tracks in there, and you can just like go through them, listen to them. The ones you don't like, you just kick out of your liked songs again. But you basically, you're auto curating it. And we're also creating like a little playlist for you with all the pre-saves, so you can easily go through everything that you save. So essentially, you build up a following. Now, let's say the first campaign had 500 people. Now the next campaign, you start with those 500 people, and then let's say you get another 300 on top. Now you have 800 people. With the next release, you have 1,000 people. And eventually, like, you could sign, let's say, a release with a label that already has over 10,000 pre-savers, essentially, as part of their presave.com plan. So any release with them will get at least those 10,000 people to immediately have the song in their collection, which is like really powerful.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is one way that we want to improve this ecosystem essentially, because then you can build up this following a bit of and a bit like democratize it, right? So and we want to make that public as well. How many followers an artist has or a label has, so you see if it's valuable, to sign with a certain label, right?
Yeah.
And then another factor of this is that currently creating pre-save campaigns is very time consuming and annoying. Like you have to create the campaign, upload the artwork, then on release date you have to put in the links or the ISRC, which is like a standard code, and it's a lot of like manual work. But with Songstats, we already have all of this information. We already have all of the links to a song, so it will work automatically for everyone. Even if you don't promote your pre-save campaign for your release, there will be one actually, no matter what, because we're creating them automatically for you. And you might even have a following that you don't even know about of a couple hundred people that follow you before you even engaged with your presave.com account or profile, right? So it's kind of cool because it all works kind of magically, So
yeah. So are you kind of like, where are you at in this process? You have the URL, but are you like building this currently? Are you testing it? Like where are you at in the process?
We're currently building it. We are actually integrating with a lot of platforms, not just Spotify, but Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, Amazon Music. We're even trying to do something with Beatport where you can automatically add upcoming releases to your cart. So it's almost like a pre-add to a cart and stuff. So there will be a lot of integrations for it, which is cool. We're currently building out the front end, and we're probably launching, I would say, Q3 of this year with it. So this is all... announcement alert. But
yeah. No,
we need a
that's
soundboard for this right now.
Let's see here.
Air horn. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The evolution of my podcast will feature annoying sounds that people wish that I never had before. So that is really exciting. I'm a skeptic at heart. So I always wonder, like, what's the market like this? How many people are actually going to be interested? But if they only have to do it one time, like I started using a platform, it's a new kind of link in bio platform that I'm using. I guess I could share the name, but this particular platform does a pre-save my future releases. So this is it's a link in bio. I'll shout them out, Forever Fan. So you got this link in my bio. You build out your own mini site. So you have to customize how it looks when people land there, the order of things and what they see. But there's literally the first button under sign up for my newsletter is pre-save my future releases, brings people to an external site. Or actually, no, they own the URL, but Forever Fan does. But then you click which platform, you fill out your name and address, and then it links to your Spotify page, and then it's already in there too. So do you have data on like what the market is on this, what the interest level is on this, like what kind of was the impetus for it, I guess?
Well, the big difference here will be that you have this like big hurdle because you first need to get people to your own website there, right?
Sure.
And then they authorize just for you, right?
Yep.
The difference with presave.com will be that it's sort of like a standalone marketplace for it. So if you're using it and you used it once and you're authorized and you're logged in, you can go and browse, and we recommend you artists to follow and stuff like this. So you don't really need to do so much, right? And then the fans that love the platform, they can basically go ahead and pick all their favorite artists, follow all of them or their favorite labels. And you don't even need to do anything for it, right? It just works. You don't even need to upload your tracks or anything like this. And maybe some artists will only discover this platform in a couple of years, and they find out like, oh my God, I have like over 2,000 followers on here. I'll start promoting this a bit more, and get people to follow me on there. And then it's what we want to create is like a helpful tool that just helps artists and also is helpful to fans. It's completely free. That's also a thing. We want to make it completely free. So if a fan loves it, they will use it. If an artist loves it, they can promote it, and then hopefully it's helpful to everyone. And we feed some more information into the Spotify algorithm to make your release grow. So that's one of our ventures to try and help artists to market themselves a bit better, you know?
Yeah. Well, we definitely share that in common, our pursuit in helping artists, because it is such a confusing, convoluted, saturated, whatever, verb or adjective you want to use, excuse me, adjective you want to use to describe this world we live in. But, I'm particular, like, you've piqued my interest around the black box that is Spotify, which is one of the biggest topics of conversation, I'd say, like in the world I live in, and probably yours as well. It's like Spotify, plays, streams, social media, all that stuff. But so I guess how do you have this inside scoop on Spotify, and how do you have access to the data? Like, what is it, an open API for those who? Well, that's nerdy stuff, but like they just let you plug in. Do you have an official partnership with them? How do you know this stuff? Are you? And it sounds like you're allowed to share this information.
Yeah, I think so. Generally, yeah, we have development agreements with all of the platforms, right? I mean, we're using their data. Spotify has an open API, for instance, right? Like
Sure.
a developer API, you need to sign up, you need to give them the use case, and then you can access some of the data that they are providing. Spotify's usually been very open with their data, and that's been great for developers, and it made Spotify being a well integrated platform in all these tools, for example, pre-save tools and etc., or playlist pitching platforms, etc. Other platforms have traditionally been a little bit more restrictive over data, and I think Spotify paved the way here a little bit for them also to, open their own developer programs, and that's been helpful for us, of course. Generally, when I talk about data points, I think it's just a lot of experience, a lot of talking with the people that work at these companies, and just doing our own market research and finding out how certain things are working. So, for example, we talked a little bit about algotorial playlists, right? Personalized playlists. Now, the interesting part in this is that if I were to open that playlist, it would look very different than if you were to open it, because it tailors itself to my music taste or to your music taste, right? But then what you will notice is that certain songs are actually pinned on the same positions across both versions of that playlist. So these are basically pinned positions within a personalized playlist. So that basically for both of us, the first song, for example, could be the same, but then everything below that is different, but then maybe position 5 is the same and position 10 is the same. It's very interesting because then obviously those tracks, 1, 5, and 10 in that case, get a lot of streams because they are basically pinned in this, what is otherwise a basically randomized playlist from the algorithm, but those ones are stable across each version, right?
And so who decides what anchors in those playlists?
Well, the editors do, of course, right? And those are usually the most valuable editorial supports, right? And Songsters now can actually tell you if you have one of these pinned positions within a personalized playlist, right? So we're actually tracking that, and then we can tell you, and it doesn't happen so often, but if it happens, that's a huge sign, right? Like that's a massive support because it's even bigger than being in a purely editorial playlist. What's also worth noting is the higher you are in a playlist, the more streams you will receive from them, right? Like if a playlist has, let's say, 1,000 tracks in it and you're position number 900, it's very unlikely that someone listens to all 900 songs. And even if they put it in shuffle mode or whatever, it's still a chance of 1 in 1,000 that your song is getting played, right? So, but if you are in the top 10, top 20, you will definitely receive the most amount of plays, right? And we actually started to map out this curve a little bit, and it is pretty, exponentially going down. The first couple of positions get a lot of the streams, and then from there it's dropping off rather quickly, right? Wow. Because people just listen to maybe a couple 5 to 10 songs in a session. Maybe they keep it running for longer, some of them, but usually then you stop because your workout is over or whatever, or you change it because you didn't like a certain song. And then suddenly you drop out of that playlist again, right? So, the top positions are usually the prime real estate, right? So,
of course, with anything, even my own personal playlist that I've been growing, it's like the first couple artists on there, I make sure that I'm picking big name artists because when people look at the playlist, they're like, oh, I know that person. The playlist sounds cool. If you had to summarize, I don't know, I have so many questions about this, but if you had to summarize 2 to 3 tips for success on Spotify what would those things be? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you've already alluded to like the crush your first 1 to 2 weeks, get people to pre-save, but like what other tips do you have for artists trying to really up their game on Spotify?
Yeah, multiple things. So I think first of all, you got to make sure you claim your Spotify for artists, right? That's like a get-go. With that, you can update your profile. I highly encourage, to use all the tools that are available there, which means, update your bio, upload some photos of yourself, put in your social links. Then also they have a thing called the artist pick, which is essentially like a little sticker that shows up at the top of your profile, where you can promote like your latest release or some
Sure. Yep.
merchandise or an event. So make use of this, right? Grow an artist playlist, I think, is quite important, that you can just curate a little bit of your own music and then, of course, put your latest releases on top. But that's great for fans, that want to hear your sound, right?
I will just pause on
Yeah.
that because that is a drum that I've been really beating a lot recently, and we've done one of the things I offer is building and managing a playlist for artists who don't know how or don't have the time or whatever, and then running ads to those playlists. And we're seeing like significant increases in monthly listeners, streams on songs, following on the playlist. You can, of course, then take your artist playlist and even monetize it if you have enough followers with third-party platforms that'll pay you to be a curator and things like that. So just want to call that out because I've seen a lot of really good stuff happen, that myself included, and been growing mine too. So sorry. Yeah. Thank you for that particular point.
No, I think if you have a engaging playlist, it's very valuable. And also there's certain playlists on Spotify that are almost like trigger playlists, because what is happening is that other curators are kind of lazy and then they just copy the songs that are in those big ones, right?
Sure.
So usually within each genre, there's like 2, 3, 4 of these trigger playlists that if you make it into one of these, then suddenly like a lot of like downstream other smaller playlists end up having your song in there as well. So if you can identify those playlists and maybe get in touch with those curators, or make good connection with them and see if they can like place you there, that's like really valuable, because then suddenly, this one playlist ad actually leads to like 50 playlist ads down the line, right? So
big snowball effect. So okay, so we got 2, right? So we got build out your profile, like make sure you're an official artist, recognized on Spotify with that little blue check mark. Build out your profile, get your photos, your bios, keep that stuff updated. Let's say, everyone listening to this has already done those things. So maybe we'll put the basics, in my opinion, of like getting your profile set up. Number one, you would say is build the artist playlist and grow that. Number 2.
Yeah, I think so. The most important thing I think nowadays is people need to, or like artists need to realize that the music is not their product. I think that mistake is what a lot of like artists do nowadays.
That's the air horn right there.
Wait. No.
Say it louder.
Your music is not your product. You are the product. Your music is just your advertising. And this is like super important to understand, because the moment you understand this, you need to promote yourself first. And then the music is just what you put out to promote yourself, right? So in my opinion, and you have, for example, control, let's say, of the Spotify canvas, right? A lot of labels will give you like their branding of, let's say, like some animated, cool, like loop, whatever. In my opinion, and I think if you look at any of the most successful artists, try to upload a video that shows yourself, a loop of you performing, of whatever, and then people see that when they listen to your song. They see you when they listen to your song. So the 100,000 streams that you make don't just show the branding of the label that signed it or whatever, but they show you. And that is so much more important, because then people are like, oh my God, like he has a great vibe, or they just put a face to the song, or whatever. And then they're way more encouraged as well to click on your profile and see that there's a person behind that music. It's not just a release, right? And I think that is a really important point too. In the canvas, for example, this like loop is a very easy way to do that, actually.
Yeah. I've been encouraging artists to do that as well. It's a great point. It's like, I've never heard, this is mind blown stuff right here. I mean, I haven't heard, I haven't heard it described in that way, where your product isn't the music, it's yourself, and you're building your brand around yourself. And I, to show your face and to get people to know who you are, it's connecting on the human level, right?
Yeah.
And that's also something that can be applied to the social media stuff too, because when you can level set and get on the level of somebody and connect with more than just the music itself, people get to know you as a person. I think it's really powerful stuff, and share your story and the behind the scenes stuff and the why. The why is always so important. But then you also see people or hear people or artists who are like afraid to get on camera or put themselves in front of the audience. Or I've even seen some Reddit, I'm pretty active on Reddit, some Reddit posts about like, what does an artist do who's afraid to like show their face? Do they wear a mask? And then, that becomes their personality. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. So, okay. So playlist, putting you're the product, not the music. Was there like the third one? Because I've kind of said the building the profile of things kind of table stakes. Any other tips for success here? Like,
Yeah, I want to think about it. I mean, generally, if you I mean, as an artist, I really encourage, I would encourage to try and build a personal brand a little bit, that is not all over the place with the music. It's not all over the place with the visual identity.
right,
It's like sort of
consistency.
creating a vibe, consistency, so
Yep.
that people that follow you know what they're gonna get. I think it's very important, even like as a label owner, if we receive demos from the same artist and one is bass house and the other one is indie dance and the next one is techno from the same artist, it doesn't really make sense because that person didn't figure out yet who they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that is important. And then, I mean, I even would recommend, some labels, they help, for example, to master songs.
Yeah.
Me personally, I am not a fan of this because then ultimately what's happening is that your song sounds like the label, doesn't sound like you anymore. So
Mm.
even if you're maybe not the best mix and mastering engineer, find someone that can do it for you, and then always use the same person so that you create your sound, right? Because if you use 10 different mastering engineers and then every track sounds completely different, and then what's your character, right? Like
Mm.
what makes you it is getting quite whitewashed, right?
That
So
is big.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
consistency and sound. Like
Yes.
nothing's better than like when a song comes on and you already know who that artist is. I think the first
Yep.
artist that comes to mind when we're just talking about this is like Purple Disco Machine. Like a
Hmm.
Purple Disco Machine song comes on, like you already know it's him. And for those listening and you don't know who he is, go check him out. It's really fun, funky stuff. But like you just know
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
But for those artists, maybe especially in like the DJ world or the dance world, who like don't want to be put in a box, and
Mm.
well, then
Well,
show people that, okay, well, let's hear what you think about that.
the don't want to get put in a box is like is a difficult thing, right? Because if you go too crazy with your sound and with everything, it's really difficult for both fans, but also let's say promoters or anyone that wants to work with you to understand what are you actually about, right? So I would say that's like a learning curve that a lot of artists go through. Maybe at the beginning they have like all these ideas, but then ultimately they see success in one of them, and then usually you sort of start to tailor your sound towards that whatever is successful, right? That can be a little bit frustrating because maybe it's not exactly what you wanted, that exactly that one song now blew up and now you're suddenly obligated to play this every time, right? But you can sort of develop from there, and then
Yeah.
push your audience gradually. But I would say, let's say for example you're an event promoter, right? And you have this guy that plays everything from hardstyle to dubstep to deep house. Like, which stage are you going to put him on? Are you
Yeah.
going to book him? Probably not, right? Like you want someone where you can immediately characterize what is their sound about, where can I place this person, what is their fan base like, and for that you need some sort of consistency. And I don't think it has to do anything with being put in a box. You can be super creative within your sound, right? But it's sort of really important, I think, to find that sound or what makes you you, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at all the bigger artists, I think they have these characteristics, and it's often difficult to find, like to stand out amongst everyone, right? Um, but I mean, I think it starts with, for example, not using all the vocals and ideas that other people are already using. You know,
Yeah.
I've been trying to preach this a little bit. Now we're getting more into production side of music, but
Mhm.
for example, Splice is one
Yeah.
of like the main sample platforms out there, but they have all these cool vocal samples. But the issue is you put one of these on your song, and then suddenly there's 10 other songs using the exact same vocal, and
Oh
then
yeah.
what is it actually that create what made you you? It's because you basically copied an idea that was given to you for free, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's much more important that you try to be creative. Use AI. That's an option now, you know, to write cool lyrics, to record a cool vocal, work with vocalists, or you know, sample older stuff that no one really has on their map, or movies or YouTube videos. There's so many options, but to go that easy route of just finding that splice sample that everyone else is using is sort of, at least for me personally, the lazy way, and it will not push your career forward that much. You know, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
I completely agree there. I do think I echo that sentiment. I think that when you're starting out or when you're at a certain level, like you have to get known for something. And look, you could get known for being an open format producer or DJ, or but like I don't know. There's a couple artists that I've seen live recently where like a Justin J, it's Murph who's like crushing it right now, and like I describe going to their sets as like a house party set, like or a bar
Mm,
mitzvah set. Like they're gonna play, but like they've also kind of established themselves with their music first, right? And I
mm,
think artists begin to earn a right at a certain point where they can kind of put the walls down a little bit and maybe get outside of what they got known for. John Summit's obviously an example. Diplo's an
mm,
example. Like these guys built their foundation on a certain thing. They got popular for it, and now they can just do whatever the f they want, right? So I think
yeah.
that's really sound advice. And hey, look, you know, I sampled German guys on the plane to Ibiza for my music, so that's I'm not kidding. There, when the couple times you've said nowadays, uh, I was flying to Ibiza a couple years ago. I sat next to a German guy, and he just goes on a rant about like nowadays everybody's on their mobile and nobody's dancing and everybody's on ketamine. And I was like, can I like record you saying that? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, just act natural to like do it again. And so I've been trying to.
Love that.
I forgot about it, but I've been trying to build something around it. Unfortunately, the vocals, yeah. Anyways, yes. I do. You know, I know we're kind of getting up against time, but so some questions around like there's been a little chatter lately about like the future of streaming, the future of how people consume music, like kind of a small revolt against Spotify. You've seen artists popping up here and there being like, I took all my music off Spotify, and you know some of the ways that people have issues with it. You know, I still say like you should be everywhere as a musician, as an artist, but like do you there's been chatter about new platforms coming out. Like, do you have either an inside scoop to any of this or a perspective on like what the future looks like? Will anyone disrupt? Will Spotify go away? Is it here to stay forever? Like, what are your thoughts on this stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think so. Uh, just really quick because you talked about the sample part. We
Mm-hmm.
did sample a Bluetooth speaker in Ibiza, actually of the founder of 1001 Trackers. He always brings his Bluetooth speaker. And the moment you click on it, it says like waiting for connection,
Yeah, yeah.
connected and stuff. And then we used that in a track and that worked out perfectly.
Hell
And
yeah.
also about a party person raving, there was some interviews on YouTube of like someone going down a festival ground and like interviewing people who are tripping, you know,
Yeah.
and we sampled some of that stuff and put on tracks
Yeah.
as well, and it's perfect, you know,
One
it's
of
so
my
great.
one
So
of my favorite tracks that came out years ago was it was like an Australian guy who threw a house party, and then like the news channel picked it up. It was called oh my god, it's like Australian woman interviewing this guy. And he's like, you threw a party when your parents were out of town, and he was just like, and the whole song was built around it, and it's like a banger track. Like I'll try to find it for you because it's like it's a good one. It goes off every time.
that's perfect.
Oh, he was like wearing glasses or something. She's like, you won't take your glasses off for the interview or something. Like, oh my god.
It's perfect. Well, that's
Sample,
all
yeah.
you need is some creativity, right?
It,
In what you do. Yeah.
Yeah, creativity in what you do, and like being actually, to your point about staying in a lane or staying in a box, if you will. I
Mhm.
think what do they say? Like they say boundaries encourage creativity or something like that. Like if you're working with more stringent parameters, it forces you to be more creative, right? Would you
Yeah.
would you agree with that? Yeah.
Yeah, let's say you tell yourself, no, I cannot use splice. Simple, then suddenly you're like, okay, what else am I going to put on this groove now? And then suddenly you think a little bit outside of the box, even though you box yourself more in, right? You set limitations, but they actually allow you to grow and develop, right? So yeah, I think it's very interesting.
And
But
for those
let's
out
go
there
back
listening,
to yeah.
well, I was just gonna say, for those listening out there, like Splice is okay, you can use it, but do it in a way that other people aren't doing.
I
Definitely like sounds and loops and percussion, cool. If you're doing
Yes.
a vocal, like chop it up, put some effect. Like don't make it obvious that you're just clicking and dragging it into your project. You know?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I would say anything what's in the background that's just the groove, and the vibe, no problem. But if
Yeah.
if if it becomes your main idea of the song, make it something different that you don't just find on Splice, because that means that then it's just a remix, right?
Yeah.
And then it's
Totally.
not original.
And
So
and by the way, quick shout. So the song, if anyone wants to look it up, it's Party Boy. The song's called Party Boy by Matthew Anthony, famous glasses bootleg.
okay,
So
party
yeah, there,
boy.
Party Boy, famous glasses bootleg. I honestly think this would fit in your DJ sets. And like it's a funny one though. It has to be the right vibe. Maybe when you're in Australia next time.
I'm
I
actually I'm playing a show there in 1.5 weeks. So
plug. There you go. I
plug.
added this. I added this to my collection in 2018. So
Perfect. Wow, it's old. I love it.
it's old. Yeah.
But it still comes to mind. That means it's a good idea, and
Yeah.
it's been, yeah,
It's a
it's
fun one.
great. Yeah, awesome. So
So
let's go
back to
back
my
to the
deeper
question.
question. Yeah.
Exactly. um, so yeah, that is a more interesting one. So basically, I want to say, if you're successful on one platform, let's say you see some success on Beatport, what oftentimes happens is that then artists really start focusing just on that, because you have like your one or two platforms that you see some success in, and then you focus purely on that. And I think that's a little bit dangerous, because you don't allow yourself to go outside of your box again, right? Like, you're just like, if you're obsessed over just entering the Beatport charts and you do everything for that, yeah, cool. But ultimately, how many people are on Beatport? It's always going to be the same people seeing you there, right?
Hmm.
But at that point, you're already in there quite a lot. At that point, the goal should be, hey, can I actually get on an Amazon Music editorial playlist? Can I actually get on Deezer? Can I actually do better on YouTube Shorts? Can I do something outside of just the box that you're already successful in, right?
Right.
But and I think that's one important factor. Then for the other part, I think every listener or every fan has their own way of consuming music. Some
Yes.
people really love the SoundCloud algorithm, and they use SoundCloud a lot, and it's sort of for free, and they just listen to music there. Some
Hmm.
people, they just leak music, or they listen to a lot of music on YouTube. YouTube is actually still the largest streaming service to date, right?
Yeah.
Bigger than Spotify and everywhere else, right? Especially globally. And so it's really important that, I think your music should be everywhere. Your
Yes.
name is not Taylor Swift, where you can try to have a big pull or leverage on the industry. I
Yeah.
think Spotify is doing everything in their power they can to get artists paid. They're actually releasing a big report once a year called Loud and Clear. If
Hmm.
anyone is interested in how royalties are getting paid and how much Spotify is paying out, I highly encourage to search for Loud and Clear Spotify on Google, and you will find the website is very interesting. You can see all the different brackets and bubbles, and how many people and how many artists actually make a living now off of just Spotify. So I
Hmm.
think it's very interesting, and I think they have good intent. It's
Yes.
not the easiest business to run. There's always a lot of people that want to receive more royalties. But it is just the way that it goes. And I think generally they've done a lot for the music industry. And for myself personally, I actually started leaking my own music to the leaking platforms. There's all like there's like a lot of like Russian websites, and there's like a lot of like, before there was like Zippy Share and a couple of these other ones, that doesn't exist anymore. But if people don't want to pay for music to download it, they're not going to, they're not never going
Mm-hmm.
to buy a song off of Beatport, or the chances are very slim. So instead, I wanted to make sure that if they've downloaded, they at least have a good version of it with the right
Right.
meta tags in good quality, and not some like weird YouTube rip. So then I rather just leak them myself onto these platforms, obviously without people knowing that I leaked them myself. But those people that use those platforms already, they're not going to find like the track on Beatport and buy it there. So then I'd rather just leak it myself, and then I have all these people download it and play it, right? And I think that is much more important, because ultimately it's all about more people playing it. Again, it's
Yeah.
advertising. Advertising is just how many people can see you, can view you, recognize your name, and become fans.
Yeah, that's I think what's unique about the dance and electronic world, right? Because oftentimes we are making music for other people to play, right?
Yeah.
We want DJs to play our music. We want people to see it live at a rave or a festival or something. Whereas a hip hop artist, a rock artist, a reggaeton artist, whatever, fill in the blank, they pretty much make and perform all their own music, and others typically aren't. So I
Yeah.
think that is what makes our industry unique. And I agree with you. I'd rather just have people play it. Like there's going to be the DJs, but yeah, sure. And then if you can develop fans who are going to stream it too, then that's both sides of the coin. But again, it's sort of a niche for this industry we live in. But I mean, like, what do you think? Is Spotify going to sustain the way it is? People are upset with it. Like people are kind of pissed off at the platform. Like, what do you think? Is it too big to fail?
No, I think they're doing a good job. I mean, there's always people that are gonna be pissed off, but why are they pissed off?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because they don't see the same success as other people there, or maybe
Yeah.
because they don't get paid, maybe not get paid enough. I think a lot of artists maybe also are neglecting a little bit of payments. I think it's important for artists to look into doing a neighboring rights deal, doing a publishing
Yeah.
deal. People often forget about these things. There's a lot of royalties to be made there too. And I mean, I don't think that Spotify is doing anything wrong. I think their intentions are good. If you are if you are annoyed with them that maybe the royalties are too low or something like this, well, then they need to raise pricing, and then you need to pay it more as well for music, and then fans need to pay more for music. That I think is a valid argument, because nowadays, yeah, for like what, $10 a month, you can basically get the whole repertoire of the globe, all for free. That's like less than like two vinyls or something,
Yeah.
from before. Like, or like one CD was used to be like, an album used to cost like $20 or
20
something
bucks.
like
Yeah.
this, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
and now you're expecting to get everything for free. I mean, generally, yeah, but it's just that's the consumers, and obviously Spotify is also part of, like, there's a lot of competition now in the space. So ultimately, the fans can decide, if they
Yeah.
like more high fidelity audio, maybe they want to go with Apple Music, or they want to go with Tidal now.
Yeah.
If they prefer the music videos, maybe they go with YouTube Music. If and
Yeah.
everyone has their own preferences nowadays. So ultimately, let the consumer decide. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And
Um,
and some even see Spotify as like a marketing platform for your music and for yourself. So you said
yeah.
nowadays again. Nowadays everybody's on
Sorry.
ketamine. No, don't
Well, but
apologize. I like it.
what is interesting about this is that, for example, TikTok, right? TikTok was
Yeah.
planning to launch their own music streaming platform. It
Right.
was called before it was called Resso. It actually
Mm-hmm.
launched here in Indonesia, and then they renamed it to TikTok Music, and they launched it in like 5 markets. I think Brazil, Australia, Singapore, India, and like somewhere else. And ultimately, they got a little bit of backlash from this, from the music industry, and also from like the labels, because TikTok is a huge music discovery platform
Sure.
nowadays.
It's number
Nowadays,
one.
again, it is number one.
They say it's number one. Yeah.
Yeah, it could easily be. And then the thing is, now what they did instead, they integrated more with the other DSPs, and I think that is the right approach. Now, if you look at like an audio page on TikTok, you can basically like save a song directly on Spotify, and you
Yep.
can do that same thing with Apple Music, and I think with Amazon Music now
You
too.
can do it.
And
You can do it with Shazam now too, which wasn't always
yep,
the case too.
and
Yeah.
this is great, because you discover music, and of course you want to be able to listen to it on your dedicated platform as a
Yeah.
listener, right? Like
Yep.
maybe you put on Shazam in a concert, you listen to it, and then maybe, I mean, Shazam now is owned by Apple Music, but they
Mm.
still allow you, and I think they have to sort of in a way allow you to open it, for example, in Spotify, so you can add it to Spotify. But it's just better for the listener, for the experience, right? So,
You know,
yeah, it
this
all comes.
I feel embarrassed to say this, but I'm going to say it. I don't think I knew Shazam got bought by Apple Music.
Oh yeah, they did get bought like quite a long time ago, actually.
Well,
So
I guess
yeah,
I should quit my day job. I want to be respectful of time and all that, and you know, we've been I don't know where the time went. We've been chatting for quite some time. What I want to kind of observe, we haven't talked a ton about 1001 Tracklist, but I think it's an amazing platform, an amazing tool. But what I've kind of observed is you guys have kind of turned into more of a brand, right? Like a lifestyle brand, or you're playing events. My buddy Maximo, yeah, my buddy Maximo played your party at in Miami. You know
yep.
Maximo, and I think you guys put him on the cover of your, I don't know, the live sets or something. But you know, it's turned into like you're throwing your own parties, you're featuring artists, like you're kind of people. I think know you more. So, are you able to speak to kind of like the thought process behind going from just a database to now like one of the, I'd say, bigger names in this space?
Yep.
For like, was it planned that way? Did it just kind of happen? Like, how did it all go about?
Yeah, so I would consider 1001 Tracklist now to be more of a media company. That's how we
Mm-hmm.
see it ourselves.
Sure.
And the way that this sort of developed is sort of step by step, but in kind of a logical way. So first we had the website with a lot of traffic, right? So then we started to basically do advertising primarily with labels, to put banners for the latest releases. Then
Mm-hmm.
we started curating a lot, doing exclusive mixes and spotlight mixes and stuff like this, and engaging more with artists. And we also started growing a big social media following. We actually crossed 1 million followers on Instagram today. So 1,000,001 followers now on Instagram. That's been a long
Thousand. So I got
time.
a little ways to go.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big shout out to Fahim, who's been running primarily the Instagram, and then also to
Hell yeah.
Jacob and Evan, who have like been crushing it. So
Congrats.
generally, yeah, I mean, generally, the socials have been working really well, not just on Instagram, but we're now also doing Facebook. We've been doing for a long time, TikTok now, YouTube, Twitter now, even as well, or X. So generally, we've branched out in that regard, and we try to just like feature more music, get artists. And I think at the beginning, 1001 Tracklist was more adopted in the more commercial electronic music, like, or what people would more consider like EDM or big room or something
Sure.
like this. And that
Mm-hmm.
was primarily because there was just more recordings of sets
Yes.
within
Yep.
that space. And I
Mm-hmm.
think what really helped was actually COVID, when artists understood having more content, especially visual content, is super, super helpful. There were so many live streams happening. And then coming out of COVID, what's happened is that even all like the darker techno events and all like the cooler stages and stuff like this, all of them have now very professional recordings done. And
Yep.
this really like helped us shift more into more of an underground scene as well. And now actually all like the coolest artists that we never thought we are gonna get to work with, all of them love us now. And I think generally we've been very genre open to every genre in music, And I think this is one super important point, and I think it's also a very, very important point for any artist or any fan or anyone. It's like, don't discriminate other genres. It's
Mm.
like really annoying me when people are like, oh no, he likes like whatever. Like, it's all the same music. It's just a different BPM and a different kick drum. Like, let people love the vibe that they like. It's all the same anyway. And within electronic music, it's all peace and love anyway. Like, everyone is accepted. And I think this has been more after COVID. In my opinion, this has been much improved, and the industry has much like matured. Where before you had basically like mainstream and underground, almost in a way, like these were like the
Mm-hmm.
two things, like big room and big festivals, and then you had basically like techno events and stuff. Now what happens is you have all these little bubbles that emerge with all the different fan groups, and artists can curate their own like following, and
Oh yeah.
it's very much matured now in a way. And there's no discrimination or overlap. You can be
Yeah.
part of this bubble and part of this bubble, and someone else is part of kind of music, and they love Afro house, and
Yeah.
then someone likes drum code and techno,
Yeah.
and someone is into hard techno. Like
Yeah.
it's fine.
There's something for everyone out there. What I tell artists too is like, and this is not just electronic, this is the whole world of music, is there's 8 billion people in the world, right? Like
Yeah.
there's something for everyone and everyone for something. And if you want to, like, I was talking to a girl who was starting an ecstatic dance metal like business,
Wow.
like ecstatic dance but for metal music. And I'm like, yeah, let's find your audience, so I think what
Big.
you're saying is true. Don't spread hate. And it's interesting too, like I try to do sort of case studies on artists and like their story, and I highlighted this one band called Krungbin. I don't know if you're familiar, but they're a rock trio from Texas, and I went to see them here at Red Rocks, 2 sold out shows, 10,000 people,
Wow.
global, very popular. And my kind of position on it was like, they sort of blew up without any major like commercial hits, but the way they did it was very interesting. And I shared that story, and it actually kind of took off on YouTube as a YouTube short. And every day I get comments on it, and it's like, some people are like, I love them, I'm going to see them this weekend. And then other people are like, they're boring, I don't get it. It's like, it's subjective. That's art in general, right?
Yes.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you probably before we have to go, but what, like, for 1001 tracklist is electronic, right? And I'm curious if you guys have talked at all about expanding it into other genres, right? And an example that I would use is jam bands. So like the Fish, Grateful Dead, like these bands that never play the same set twice, and fans travel around with, and
Hmm.
like look at the set list to see what they played, and then you're going tomorrow night, so you're not going to get that song, but maybe you'll get this song. Like, is there any discussion around that, or are you guys really just trying to dig your feet into the electronic world and dance world?
With 1001 Tracklist, we're pretty set in electronic music. That's
Mm,
sort of our home base, and I
sure.
think Songstats has been the venture that's grown out of just electronic music and into the broader music space. Songstats is now being used by K-pop artists, by hip hop, by country, by anyone, from reggaeton to R&B. And that's been very interesting for us as well. And I think the Songsets brand is much more well positioned to do that. With 1001 Tracklist now, we are going more into events, as you alluded to. We're basically, we started doing an award at the end of each year called the Top 101 Producers, where
Mm-hmm.
we essentially use our data to determine which producers have been supported the most by DJs, and rank them just purely based on DJ supports. And it's essentially makes the DJs the curators or the editors of this chart, right? It's purely data driven,
I
and
love it.
it's great. We're coming up to our 10-year anniversary with this. And surrounding it, we've started doing events in Amsterdam for Amsterdam Dance Event, ADE.
Mm-hmm.
And
See you there.
yeah, see you there. And
Yeah.
we've been growing them significantly, and
Yeah.
it's great. It's also, it took some time for the adoption. I think in the
Yeah.
first 2 or 3 years, Skrillex was number one, and he never really acknowledged the charts. And then at some point, though, we had other people that were sort of our champions, and they really stood behind it. At some point we had David Guetta up on stage, thanking everyone. And I think since ever then, like our events have been growing. We want to do more events. We actually have one coming up now, actually in China. We're doing
Nice.
more.
Cool.
We had a big one for Miami Music Week. We call them Waterways, which is usually our boat party concept that we do both in Amsterdam and in Miami. We do the rooftop sessions. And also one really big thing that's coming up now is that we're starting our own record label in joint venture with Tomorrowland. And
Sick.
that is a really big thing that I think we can talk about now. The first releases are coming; they're getting signed now, and
Is this another world exclusive here?
I think it's already been announced, but not
Okay.
officially. But
All
people
right.
are in the industry are talking about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's another quite exclusive. It's ahead of the first thing, and we're obviously going to do a big press announcement. And the concept of the label is cool because what we want to do is we only want to feature big collaborations. So it's always something unique and cool where like two artists come together to create something that's special. And I think
Yeah.
that has this like community aspect that we're really really deep with 1001 Tracklist because it's a community driven platform, right? So and yeah, we may or may not feature some of those sets when those artists play back to back during Tomorrowland, and it's gonna be really really epic. So that's been a collaboration in the making for a long time, and we're super happy to be working with them. And yeah, it's pretty sick. Yeah.
I got to get to Tomorrowland at some point. I actually noticed it for those listening. We tried to record when he was at his house, and you had a Tomorrowland background, or you had a poster or a flag. The flag. That's what it was.
Now I have a weird socket that I need to hide with my face. I don't know what this is. So yeah.
That's for something that, maybe for your OnlyFans page. Yeah, man. Well, that's very exciting. Yeah, I remember you guys had the cube, right? Is that your thing you put on the decks when you do live sets? You have a cube?
Yeah, we do the cubes because 1001 Tracklist is quite cubey. Also,
it's the cube,
cannot share the designs yet for the cover artworks for the label, but they will also be a little bit cube related. It's sort of a bit of our branding now with the pixelated, old school retro 1001 Tracklist vibe. Yeah.
So next, maybe when we meet in person, we'll be cruising down a canal in Amsterdam, listening.
Hey, let's do it. That'd be fun.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Well, thank you so much. I feel like we could talk for hours about this stuff. You've really, I think, opened the world up and to like the inside, the getting into that black box, that is Spotify. And for those listening who haven't checked out Song Stats before, it's a very powerful tool. Knowledge is power. Data is power. And then, if you do live in the electronic world and you haven't checked out 1001 Tracklist, then get over there. It's a really great platform for music discovery too. And a tip actually that Kaysen had given me is along the lines of if maybe you're an up and coming producer in the electronic world and you want to figure out labels to shop to, his tip was look to see what songs artists are playing, like a big name artist, and what songs they're playing, and see what songs are on what label, and then maybe you have more of a brainstorm idea to shop your music to. So it's all really good stuff. I'm super glad to have talked to you. We'll hopefully do a part 2 soon to focus on you, your music, your label, and get to meet your partner as well. And but for now, I always like to take a quick photo that I'll screenshot. So look at the camera. We'll do a 3, 2, 1. I'll try to get on your level wise, although I think we are the same height. I think so. Okay, yeah. So we just do 1, 2, 3. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been episode 13, lucky number 13 of the Racket House podcast. Thank you again, Oskar, for all your wisdom in sharing everything, and look forward to staying in touch with you. And everybody check out his platforms. And if you like dance music, check out Don't Blink. They're amazing producers and DJs. And if they're coming to a town near you, definitely go see them. So thank you. This has been the Racket House podcast. Cheers.
Thank you. Let's go.